All right, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call this meeting to order. It is 5:33, and we will start off with a roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hector Alanis.
Present.
I'll move here.
Mr. David Cash Vasquez.
Present.
Justin Heather.
Present.
Jesus Olivares.
Present.
Mr. Roque Vela.
Present.
Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to today's bond referendum main committee meeting. Today, we're going to hear from our public safety presentation. And before we get to that, I would, seek are there any public comments that need to be made today?
Mr. Chair, nobody signed up for public comment
Okay.
unless there's somebody that hasn't turned in a card, but no.
Okay, so
Nobody
no
turned
public
in.
comments today. Thank you, Mario.
Yes, sir.
Having said that, we will move on to item number 4, discussion with possible action on the Public Safety Subcommittee's recommendations to be presented to the City Council for approval for placement on the special election ballot. And before we get them to come up, or before we turn it over, I would also like to mention that I believe our legal counsel and our consultants are available in case we need to clarify or if there's any questions that need to be made. So having said that, I will turn over to our chair, Mr. Olivares.
Thank you. Thank you. Jesus Olivares, I was the chair for the Public Safety Committee. Before we move on, I'd like to recognize some of the committee members that are here. We have Monica Garcia, who's in the audience, she's part of the team. We have Rick Raurer, who is also part of the team, and we also have Lucy Morris, who is our secretary. And they played a major role in, I'm sorry, Mr. Chapa is also there. Thank you, sir, for being here. This committee, together, we met 5 times already, and we went through a process where we reviewed fire and police strategic plans in detail. Both fire chief and the police chief made presentations, very detailed questions that came out of these presentations. Each of the presentations that were made at various different meetings, and then the committee, once we finished that process, we requested that each department present their request in a priority order. In fact, everybody presented in priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, priority 4, and 5. Once those priorities had been presented by each of the departments, we reviewed those very carefully and went back and forth and looked at some of the questions that each of the committee members had presented, and the chiefs came back with their answers. We also took the time to go and tour the entire police department complex. And for those of you that have not seen in the conditions that our police department is in, it's something to be seen, and you have to recognize the request that is being made by these department heads that are, it's a reality. The committee met at the Kinder Library last week, and we went into detail into all the priorities that the both departments had presented, and the committee made a recommendation that we recommended to the liaison, Chief Landine, to take forward to the administration. And the recommendation that we made will be presented by Chief Landine and both chiefs also, just so that everybody that is here today can see what those requests that are being made entail. It's a large bond package, but we feel that public safety is very important in our city. And in order for us to continue to be a safe and a growing city, we need fire and police protection, and it needs to be not just what we've been doing for the past years and just kind of getting along and asking the chiefs, can you hold on another year? I think that situation has come to a point where we really have to deal with the reality that we have in front of us right now. So, Chief?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Bond Committee, Steve Landine for the record, Assistant City Manager and Liaison for the Public Safety Subcommittee. I have had the great honor and pleasure to serve as Fire Chief and Police Chief for the city, and I know the needs of both departments, and I've worked closely with both chiefs, and it is our recommendation that this main committee adopt and approve what's being presented to you by the chiefs to be sent forward to the city council. The chiefs are ready to present to you all, and if you have any questions for the chiefs or myself, we'll be happy to answer the questions. These bond packages, or these proposals coming from both chiefs are studied by both department command staff, and they're bringing forward something that's very realistic. One of the comments that was made by our police chief that resonated in my mind is the kicking of the can down the road. As we saw in the utilities department, the department pretty much collapsed. And so these chiefs are coming forward because they want to make sure that their departments are sustained throughout. Because as the chair of the subcommittee, Mr. Olivares, our former city manager, knows, a lot of times when we get confronted with the budget for all departments, it's hard to fund departments adequately, especially for the needs of police and fire. They get the bare minimum, and I know, because I would propose, and I wouldn't get as much as we would ask for. And so without saying much more, both chiefs are prepared to present to you all what they need to be up to times, per se. So, chiefs, if you'd like to come forward with your presentation.
Good afternoon, committee. Guillermo Hurd, Fire Chief, City of Laredo. I'm here to give you a summary of what was approved by the subcommittee last week. So can you all see the screen here? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So the Laredo Fire Department, we did a strategic analysis of the needs that we have through our CIP plan, and we also hired a consultant last year to come in and evaluate our department for strategic growth, part of our ISO plan. Within that, we already had needs within the department. We've also have a strategic plan that we started a couple of years ago with our budget department to strategically replace our vehicles every couple of years using a point system that is best practices by other fire departments. So every year when we come up with budget and city management, where we propose new vehicles that we need, it's a specific plan of which vehicles also. So we also implemented those vehicles in here for the next 5 years. And going back to the request for the stations is when the consultant came in, he did an analysis and he analyzed that in the next 5 to 7 years that we're currently short 3 fire stations. One station in the south, one station in the north by mile marker 13 and 15, and one station between by Mines Road and Green Ranch. Between our fire station that's by Mines Road and the Loop, and by our training center that's by close to the Columbia Bridge. In the next 5 years, he did analyze that we need a station there too. So we are proposing that we need 3 stations, 3 new stations. And then also, we are also asking for the complete remodel of 2 stations, the station by Zacatecas and the station by Mines Road. Those 2 stations haven't been major remodeled they have never had a major remodel. And when the consultant also came in, he did an analysis of our ladder trucks. The ladder trucks are the big fire trucks that have the ladder on the top. And he did analyze for operational purposes that we had to move those trucks from where they were previously placed. One truck we had by Celito Lindo station, which is by LBJ, so we moved it by the Cigarroa station. The other one we had by the Sam's station, right across Sam's, we moved it to the Mines Road station. Subsequently, now the ladder trucks are more strategically placed to go and fight the fires and fulfill the mission that we're supposed to do. But we increased the growth and more firemen are there. So that's one of the things that we're requesting is to do a complete remodel of that station to have a proper place for our firefighters to have so they can be ready for duty as our motto goes. The other stations that we are proposing are the station that's here by Martin. That station, if you've ever been to our fire administration building, when you enter, there's a real pretty fire truck when you enter. That actually it was a fire truck. Currently, right now, the fire trucks are twice the size. That fire truck that is in our administration building in the lobby was a similar fire truck was placed at that Martin station. So when they built that station, it was built for that type of fire truck. Fire trucks are twice as big now, and we also have an ambulance. That is a very tight quarters for my firefighters. Our firefighters there, they don't complain. They show up to work, but I do feel that we need to expand that area. Also, the other station that we're proposing to relocate is a station that we have at the airport, which is right across the street from the police station. That station there hasn't been remodeled. We started the process of moving that station 4 years ago. We have 2 facilities at that area. We have the shop where we fix our fire trucks or ambulances, and we have the station too that responds to that area. City Council approved us to start the process of moving the shop, and then the next phase was to move the fire station too. That subsequently, because of the need of the 2 other stations that we're currently in the process of building, the one in the south and in the north, has taken a back seat, but it is a priority. That station is old. It's not up. It's not up to par. So that's the other station that we're wanting to remodel. And then I also have some other remodeling for some of the other stations. But those are the main requests that I have. The vehicles is the other one. The land acquisition. Each station, there's furnishing. And then also the certain equipment that we have to do our everyday jobs. Our portable radios. We're currently updating our practices when we have any terrorism response and how we respond with our partners with PD. Now, instead of being in the cold zone on the outside, now best practices shows that if we move it interior into the building, still a safe zone, and we do a safety perimeter with PD, that we're able to save more lives, and subsequently also aid the officers that are there in the responding to the call. But in order to do that, we need the right equipment. Each firefighter needs to be equipped with a vest and a helmet. So we started the process already, but we only have enough vests and helmets to start. But we do need about 3 times as much equipment. So in total, the Laredo Fire Department is asking $98,663,550. That is a request for the 5 to 7 year plan. As mentioned, the request, we did have a consultant that came in and did a strategic plan for 5 years and one also for 10 years. But currently right now, our ask is only from the 5 to 7 years. I did give you a appendix of the presentation that we presented to the subcommittee, and also a sub-presentation that shows the best practices in the fire department. It shows also, it gives you analysis of the risks that our firemen have. One of the things that I've been asked is I've asked for a certain architects to design the certain stations. So the stations, we don't consider them offices, we consider them homes for our firefighters. So best practices right now shows that a way a station is specifically designed, specifically can reduce the risk for the two biggest killers for our firefighters, cancer and heart disease. Right now, the stations, the way they're being designed, best practices is when we respond to an actual incident. There's a hot, warm, and a cold zone. The hot zone is the area where the truck parks, and when a firefighter comes in with all the gear after a fire, he transitions into an area called the transition zone where he can take off all that gear safely and wash it off, and he doesn't enter the living area, the kitchen, or the bedrooms. Those types of changes in the buildings greatly reduce the cancer risk for our firefighters. The mortality for a firefighter in the last recent years has increased from 58 years old to 61 years old. That is not retirement age, that's mortality. So even though it's increased and we strive to do great changes, I still think that any opportunity that we have to increase the mortality, increase the life of our firefighters, we should take it. We did an analysis with our pension board. Currently, we have 199 retirees currently in our pension. 60% of those retirees are under 60 years old. 15% are between 60 and 65. That means the majority of our retired firefighters don't go past 65. And most of the time, it's cancer, heart disease, or other things like that. So is it a big cost that we're asking for? Yes. But I do see the long-term effects. We need to take care of the people that take care of everybody else. As I mentioned, I do have all the appendixes, all the presentations there, and I stand here if you have any other questions for me.
Any questions?
Questions from the group?
I'll just ask, what is the, and this may be some data that may not have been looked at, in terms of your ambulance calls, you're at 31,000, what is the expected rate of that to grow? And David Cash Vasquez for the record, but what is the rate that you guys anticipate that to grow with the 5 to 7 year plan that you have, as well as the fire calls?
So every year, the calls go up 10 to 15%. Right now, the busiest ambulance is the one that is in the center of the city, the one by Nixon High School. And then the other ambulances are the ones that's by downtown, the one by Martin, the one down the street, the one by Cigarroa. A couple of years ago, the station that was by Celito Lindo, it used to be considered a slow station. Now it's also a very busy station. Why? The population is really growing down there. But there's less access to medical care. We are at least in the top 5 medical providers in the city, behind the hospitals, Gateway. Unfortunately, especially in West and South Laredo, there is a lack of health care. So sometimes the people there, our community members, call 911 in order for us to take them to the ER so we can provide the best, so we provide health care for them. So we do anticipate 10 to 15% growth. In the station that we are currently building in South Laredo, council did approve the construction cost, but because of inflation, we are short $3 million. That is also in the proposal here because of the inflation cost. We are planning to have a fire truck and an ambulance at that station that is right there by the Buena Vista area too. We also want to put another ambulance there that's by the airport station across the Laredo PD station. That's another one too. That will help alleviate the calls. But right now, some of the ambulances go out 12, 15 times per day, and it is very taxing on our firefighters. So we are short medical care. Our population is growing, so we anticipate a 10 to 15% growth in our calls yearly, I'm sorry.
Appreciate that, Chief, thank you.
Chief, I think you may have answered my question already in response to Mr. Cash's question, but, when I was looking at both Station 16 and 17, it had an estimated cost, but then was in process. Is that the delta of what has been, the inflation has increased the cost of those projects over what the city council has already approved, or is that a different number?
So, to help answer your question, so we were approved close to $5 million for construction costs for the station in Buena Vista. So currently, right now, we're working with the architect, and the architect, we projected a $500 a square foot for construction cost. We're at the same time, part of our phase to move out the buildings at the airport is the shop. So the shop is also another one that we are short in construction cost. Is that one, we actually put it out for bid a couple months ago. We projected for that one to be at about $400 a square foot. When we came back with the bidders, it came out to $550 a square foot. And that's just a warehouse. So I met with our city engineer and our architects, and I said, we're projecting $500 for a station. The shop is at $550. What should we put the stations at? So we put them at $700 a square foot, working with our city engineer, and 5% increase subsequently, depending on when we do the construction. For remodeling, since it already has the base, we are doing $600 a square foot. So that's how we're coming up with the analysis on the cost. $700 a square foot for a new fire station, $600 a square foot for a remodel station, and then $550 for the shop that we also have the cost that is remaining in order for us to complete that project.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Chief, let's just say hypothetically this committee approves everything and it goes to the people and you get the 98 million, is it?
Yes, sir.
98 million. This is within 5 years.
Yes, sir.
And it's 3 more fire stations,
Yes, sir.
right? How many, do you know how many more firefighters it would cost to man those fire stations?
Yes, sir. So currently, right now, city council, well, I guess, let me backtrack. For each new each new fire truck, ladder truck, or ambulance that we activate, best practices and per our CBA, we can't use existing personnel. We need to hire new FTEs. City Council for the Buena Vista Fire Station at the last year's budget meeting approved 24 FTEs for a fire truck and an ambulance. The current budget that was just approved for the mile marker 15 station, they already approved the personnel. For the fire truck, 15 personnel, 15 new FTEs, and for the ladder truck, 15 new FTEs. And then for a district is, the city is divided into 3 different districts. That means for span of control, when there's a major call, there's an incident commander at each area. That's a chief in a white shirt. So we currently have 3. So because of the new stations that we're building, we recommended that we go into 4. So in total, they approved 38 new FTEs. So in the last 2 years, we've gone up 62 FTEs.
That's with the retirees?
Yes, that's the new FTEs, and we always have academies at the same time for the retirees. For the 5 to 7 year master plan, we have a new fire station that would be Station 18. We have a fire truck that we're proposing to put at the airport station, not the one by the PD, but the one by the loop. We also have 3 ambulances that we're going to put out throughout the city. So in short, we are projecting with administrative personnel, because of the growth, about 70 new FTEs that we're going to be proposing in the next 5 to 7 years, which would be a cost to the general budget would be about $30 to $40 million in FTEs for payroll.
And over how many years?
In over 5 years.
In that
In the
5-year
last
span.
in the last year, because it will be a total of 76 FTEs, it will be an additional cost about $40 million to our salary.
Okay, so per year, we're looking at about 800,000, 900,000 per year?
I have
No, it's more, way more than that.
No, it's more than that. Each firefighter, it's about $70,000 with fringe benefits in the academy. So 76 new firefighters that we're going to hire, spread out through 5 years. That's how we're calculating how it's going to be $40 million in total. So right now we have.
But that doesn't sound right.
You
said 70 new FTEs.
76, about
Okay,
76.
at 70,000 each, which it can go up. There's some administrative, and there's probably gonna be more like 85,000. But that's 800,000 a year times 5.
I have a slide for that, Mr. Councilman Vela. Let me see here. Do you have the slide?
So my question is, while we wait, Mr. Landin, Chief Landin, is there a plan? That's gonna be an impact to the general fund, obviously. Is there a plan that the city has on how we're gonna have that, get that money to be able to finance these new FTEs?
Generally, we'll work within the budget of the city, to propose the addition of the personnel to be absorbed in the budget. So we would rely heavily on bridge, because bridge helps us offset police and fire in the general fund. And we would also, look at, new sales tax with the growing of the community. So we do anticipate that it will be an impact to the budget. As you can see, some of the proposals the chief has presented to you are already staffed. They're already in motion, in training, and coming on board in anticipation of. So almost 50% of the new personnel is already in motion.
So you anticipate the growth of the city to be able to catch up and be able to sustain these new FTEs?
And that's
along
our-
with the ones that police, because police is gonna have a whole other ask that's
Correct.
also gonna impact us as well. Can I ask, bond counsel, are you ready?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, go ahead, sorry. I'll ask bond counsel after this.
So this is a summary of the request. Granted, right here, we do have already the current request that was already approved by city council in the last 2 budget years, which are the 24 and the 38. So apart from that, here's 153, but you subtract the 72 the 62 that has already been approved. For remodeling, relocation, we do not need new FTEs. It's for the activation of new.
But Chief, and I think, personnel cost is gonna be something that the administration's gonna have to deal with. And that's gonna be part of your strategic plan as to how, and how you strategize on selling these bonds, as to how your personnel is gonna come and match into that. And during the process that we had with, fire and police, we felt that that portion right there was a component that city manager and staff is gonna have to work on before they move forward on some of these projects, right?
That is correct. We would have to definitely make sure that we can stay in touch and stay in line with the projected growth. So at any point that we think we're gonna hit a wall, we may not, what we want is flexibility in the language. And that's why we believe in our bond counsel and our attorneys to be able to give us that flexibility within the language to move forward with the plans, with the projected growth in revenues, to be able to sustain the personnel costs. So it's a moving machine as we move down the road, and we have to be synced. And so it's gonna come down to, sales tax, the bridge revenue that helps offset public safety, and the property taxes that the city relies on as part of the growth of the city.
And, finance, department, basically, moving forward and saying that these bonds will get, approved. Therefore, that frees your hands up a little bit, with, being able to provide that type of gap that we're talking about, simply because a lot of the major resources are gonna go to the brick and mortar and the department on the needs that they have. Therefore, that'll release and give you some leeway to have a little bit of extra money to share with the rest of the departments, I guess, right?
Right.
Any other questions from the group?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Chairman, if I may. You mentioned flexibility in the selling of the bonds. Why would you need flexibility if there's going to be a plan moving forward? These fire stations aren't going to get built overnight. The equipment that we need is the equipment that we need. So I would hope that the city would say, okay, this year we're selling bonds for fire station X. Next year, fire station Z. Why the need for the flexibility in the language?
Anytime you deal with absolutes and an anomaly occurs for some reason, it could be some issue even with the land that creates and the chief and I have been working on land in Unitech since I was chief. He picked it up and he's still running with Unitech. Now we had to, because of the delays that occurred, he's hopped already on the other side with a different track. Sometimes delays delay the whole system, but what I mean by flexibility is the language comes and the way we've drafted bond monies has allowed us to do brick and mortar, vehicles and equipment, and the flexibility of being able to use it within the categories, not so much something outside of the plan. It's something that could happen that, well, we couldn't build this station on this year as we planned it, but we still have to do the radio and the communications project. Instead of doing it this year or next year, we swap.
So it's still, you just, instead of specifically setting a bond for a fire station, it's
On
going to be
this year.
for public, I understand you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bond counsel, quickly, what, at $98 million, what kind of impact is that to the property tax?
For the record, Jay Juarez, McCall Parkerson Horton. I am bond counsel, which means we are your legal advisors in this transaction. Also in the audience, you have Tony Hasso, who is your financial advisor. So any finance-related questions, tax rate impact, he would be the proper person to address.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
To address Councilman Vela's question, Committee Member Vela, we do have in the binders that we provided you all, on our first meeting with you all, estimates per penny for 1 cent, up to 25 cents per $100. And Chief, if you could put it up there, here it is, Chief. This will kind of, this is a general idea. And this one too, Chief, in case they want to see that.
And the current tax rate is 51, 53? 49.
49,
49 is the current tax rate?
that's correct, 0.49. You want to address it, let's formalize it, please. We have an exact for you based on this document.
So this is part of the budget department. The approved rate rounding to the second decimal is 51 cents in total, 40 cents for the M&O, and 11 cents for the debt service.
Okay, so just, yeah, I see what you're saying. So it's 51?
Yes.
Okay, when somebody pays tax, it's 51 cents per every $100 valuation. Just stick with that, that's that, because I know what you're saying, most people don't.
That's a
Yeah,
key.
but this is based on 800 million? What he's doing?
Chief, you want to?
Oh, no, it's just a 49-cent tax rate.
Yeah.
So that's currently what the tax rate is right now. So the estimates were for the, projected bond. Of course, that gets, and forgive me, Tony Hasso with the Starling Hosa, we serve as your financial advisor. But again, once we go down and have a final amount, that number will become more accurate as we. Yeah.
Can you stand up and also out there, the microphone is better there.
Oh, okay. I have sorry, Chairman.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, just a very simple question.
Sure.
$98 million. How many more cents is that gonna cost us?
Look at the slide.
Yeah, so so each penny would generate roughly 2.4, and so 2,474,733. So that's kind of
About 3.5 cents?
If you look at the very bottom line, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is the amount. If you're looking at, so it's about a pen, 1.5 cents to cover.
Oh, 1.5, okay, I got you.
To cover
Okay, the 1.4, the 1 cent brings in $2.4 million
which will
of
pay,
extra
which will
revenue to the general fund.
which will
But
pay
you can leverage that to $41 million.
That's correct.
So, all right, about 1.5 pennies. Okay,
more or less.
great.
That's just for the fire side, and then when you see PD.
Yeah, I understand. I just, because I mean, this is gonna keep adding up.
Yes.
Right, so with that, right now, we're at hypothetically speaking, we're at 1.5 more.
And-
Now, one more question, Chief. That 72 million more in payroll, that number is, that can't be right.
That's the total, the 5 years, at the end of the budget.
But that's all the fire department.
Yes, all the fire,
I'm
no,
trying-
no, that's an increase. So currently, our payroll side, only for salaries and fringe benefits, it's about 60 to 63 million. So that would,
That's okay, so that's my question. So then, once we hire all these FTEs, it's gonna go from 63 million to 72 million.
no, it's an additional.
Let me see if I can clarify that for you. It's 76, new FTEs that you mentioned, right?
Yes,
At about 77,000.
about 73,000 in the academy.
Right. 76 times 73,000 is 5.5 million
Times
five.
That's 25 million.
But
And
it-
that's why the range was 30 to 40.
And
He's
Mr.
saying
Chairman?
72 million, it doesn't make any sense.
Because it's compounding. You hire so many this year, that amount goes to the next year, and you're building, it's like the boulder rolling with more and more as you're adding them, and it compounds over the duration of those 5 years. That is why, because we're adding the total cost from here to here, and it goes up incrementally into the total amount.
So, okay, so we're saying this is, just to try to simplify this, we're saying this is gonna be an extra $14 million a year over the next 5 years.
Yes, because.
So we're back to, right now it's $63 million plus 14, $77 million
Yes.
a year.
When they graduate too, there is about a $10,000 to $15,000 increase in their pay.
Understood, yeah, so it's not really gonna be, it's not 73,000, it's.
2 years and then the year afterwards.
So that's where, that's still not right. That's still,
Compounding, Councilman,
still,
compounding.
we really need to work on this presentation. This is not gonna go over well with the people. I mean, $72 million in over 5 years additionally, that's a big number. And I don't think it's accurate.
We can fix it, we can fix it up where it makes no sense how it rolls. Like this is what we have, the way our hiring process is, the personnel, what we can do is we can put it in the same way with the money at the year's current cost and the additional, how it compounds to that amount of money.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chairman.
Let me also clarify that, this situation is gonna also affect the other, projects that we're talking about. We're gonna talk about police right now too. And with the addition of facilities, buildings, there will be operational costs, including personnel, but that's not gonna be part of the bond referendum. And so what we're tasked now is to focus on the bond referendum. Of course, there's gonna be operational cost involved, but for, our purpose, what we're gonna, our main goal is to look at the bond referendum.
So, really quickly, if I could just chime in, Mr. Chairman, the question, I guess, would be, what is because we're going to depend on sales tax and bridge revenue to pay for salaries, what is the estimate or estimated increase that we're going to see from where we're currently at? Because most of the bridge revenue is already being utilized, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
I'm not sure who can answer that question.
It's-
Budget?
I understand what you're saying, Chairman, and that our job is to put together this bond package, but you can't ignore the impact that it's gonna have to the general fund, because we're gonna have to fund these. I mean, we're not gonna build a fire station and have, no firefighters. I mean, you need 9 firefighters to man an ambulance 24/7, 365. That's just one ambulance. So I mean, what's the point of having an ambulance? What's the point of having a fire station if we don't have the firefighters we need? So we have to take that into consideration, because once these are built, the city's gonna do what it has to do to man them, and as they should, by the way. And that's gonna be a financial impact to us.
Now, let me also say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, the projects are not gonna build, they're not all gonna be built at the same time. Everything's gonna be staggered, you know, and you're not gonna build three fire stations. You're not gonna get all the vehicles, you know, the first year. Everything's gonna be staggered over a 5-year period. And I am sure that the city council has already looked at, and the city manager as to what increases we're gonna have from our revenues, from the source revenues, to be able to fund the operating cost. And so I'm sure that that's not something that's not been looked at. Am I correct?
And in addition to the finance department, they're in the process, and they're gonna have to look at the whole big picture. Okay, this is how much money the bond package is going to produce to facilitate all of these requests. That money that normally was supposed to come out of the COs or general fund, it's gonna be given a little bit of a break to where they're gonna be able to prepare a budget to be able to facilitate some of these needs that are gonna be needed in some of these facilities. It's gonna have to be that way. Otherwise, we're gonna stay in the same place that we're at right now. Can't move forward. But if you can release that commitment that is coming out of the general fund, that we're having to do COs and general fund and all of that money to be able to move fire and police and other departments forward, it's not gonna give you the amount of resources that you need to be able to provide personnel. So that's gonna be a strategic point for bond counsel and finance to be able to strategize. And one of the things that we discussed with both chiefs is there's vehicles to be purchased or those type of equipment. And you heard from the chief how cost is going up constantly. The key is going to be that when that bond package, so hopefully it passes, immediately staff goes out and encumbers as much money that they can on these vehicles so that the cost of these vehicles don't get you 2 or 3 years down the road. That part right there is gonna be a strategic move in the administration's part. Not only fire, but also police. That they're gonna have to do that, and finance will probably lead the way on that. But it's gonna be real important. Facilities, it's a different story. But if you can encumber buying your ambulance, your fire trucks, your police cars, all those, and lock them into a cost number to where it's gonna take 2 or 3 years to get it to you. By the time you get it, price is gonna go up, but you wanna lock that in immediately.
And tacos for everybody, Joey. You know, everybody in the room tacos.
Frank, Francisco Mata, Finance Director. And again, once these items have been identified, we will bring a more comprehensive analysis on that M&O for the entire bond referendum.
Thank you, Mr. Mata. Any other questions for Chief Hurd? Chief Hurd, do you have any other information, anything else in your presentation?
No. I just wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. I said we've been working very hard. I know every year we come up to council and we make those certain requests, but I do feel that this is a strategic request that we're doing, and then and I do feel confident in the request that we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, the group, thank you for your service as well.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chairman, there may be individuals that might have something to add. I know that the union president's in the room, and for the fire, I'm not sure about the police side, but,
Would you like to be recognized now or wait after the presentation from the PD? Go ahead. Sure. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, everyone here present. My name is David Gonzalez. For the record, I am president of the Laredo Firefighters Association. I'm also a captain in the Laredo Fire Department, and I'm also a citizen here and a taxpayer for the city of Laredo. I do want to commend Mr. Councilman Vela for bringing this item up as far as the impact it will have to the general fund. And the only comment I want to make is I urge this committee, as a taxpayer myself, to consider projected growth of the city. You're talking about what the salaries would cost, what the impact of the general fund. We've run numbers before as an association when we've dealt with the city as far as what projections of increase of the tax base will occur. Very conservatively, the city will grow 20 to 25 million as long as what needs to get done gets done. Even if you held that even at a 25% conservative rate of what projections over the last 5 years were, you're still at about 15 million a year. When you look at payroll, the 72 firefighters are going to average out to about 2 million extra to the actual general fund impact for salaries or benefits for firefighters. So by adding, or you divide those 72 evenly, and it's going to be more like every 2 years, because that's what the academy takes. And so you can easily project the increase to the impact or the impact to the budget. That'll be about $2 million a year. You tie that, and really for anything this committee proposes to city council should be tied to projected growth to the tax base. So if we're going to grow at a conservative rate of 15, 18 million a year, this bond package should take that into consideration. The payroll for firefighters takes up about 7.5%, give or take a percentage point of the general fund, not the entire budget, just the general fund. So when we look at numbers, if we're going to project growth of 20 million, 7.5% of that may be about 1.5 million. That's going to be your impact. Where is the payroll going to come from? The growth of the city. So as the fire chief and police chief and everyone else going to project growth to the city, we do need to take into consideration the growth that is going to naturally occur with the growth of the city. And so our bond package should mirror our growth. So payroll, benefits, and whatever is not covered by the bond, we should be able to tie even a conservative formula to that, and that should cover. So our presentation or whatever we're requesting should line up with a conservative approach of projections and growth. If the growth is not projected to be there, then we shouldn't be proposing 10 fire stations. But at 3 fire stations, if you do look at what the growth at a conservative rate will be for the next 5 years, it should be more than enough to cover payroll. The issue is going to be of whether council is going to want to take that growth and put it all towards payroll or benefits, right? And so even if you cut it in half, we're still going to need to grow, and there still will be monies there. The only thing stopping it would be the complete collapse of the city and its ability to generate revenue. So that's all I wanted to say. And as a citizen, I ask you to take that into consideration. Look at what the city is projecting, because because does a great job of projecting conservatively. And you should tie any bond package with anything that's not covered by it. When it mainly is going to be payroll, we should tie that to those numbers so that we know if what we're proposing does have a shot at working and being successful. Other than that, if there's any questions, I'm here. If not, that's all I wanted to say. So basically just to cover what your question was, Council.
So I like having these conversations with you because you know numbers. Again, the impact, what you think estimate's going to be on a yearly basis for payrolls and what?
I just running numbers sitting down right now for the first time at about say 2 million a year, maybe 1.8 million.
That makes sense.
Right.
You can agree that was.
I think that they just the way it was put together was just in addition of what it's going to cost over 5 years, and so it's just how we slice the apple. It's correct. It's just I don't think it was answering what you were asking.
So, $2 million a year. I'm gonna guess this bond package, we're gonna probably end up somewhere around 10 cents. Just by what I'm seeing here, what I'm seeing in the police, what I know is coming out of my committee as well. We're gonna be around 10 cents. I'm gonna guess. That's going to bring in $400 million, and it's going to be an additional $20 million coming into the general fund. Yeah, 2.1. Every penny brings in 2.1. Is that did I remember that correctly? Is that correct?
2.4.
2.4. So $24 million extra to the general fund. And out of that $24 million, how much is it gonna be to meet the obligations?
Chair.
And this is ballpark because interest rates are gonna, it's a moving target, right?
Jesus Esparza with the budget department, the point that I want to make is that that additional money that is not coming into general fund is coming in for the debt service. payment.
Strictly for debt service.
Strictly for debt service payment. We still need to pick up all the increases that general fund has on an annual basis.
That
for
just
property
naturally
taxes.
occurs.
And just to kind of clarify, the two biggest revenue sources for general fund is property taxes and sales tax. The third one is a transfer that we bring in from bridge. The property taxes is capped at 3.5% growth. So we do have, this last year, we grew $28 million, but from the property taxes and sales tax, we only got $15 million. The other monies is coming from bridge and the other revenue sources.
So it's a $15 million increase from last year.
Yes.
With property tax and sales tax.
And that's where our challenge is, because everything in general fund comes from those two main line items. Those are two main revenue sources. The 3 million that David is talking about, we have about 2 to 2.5 million for the contract increases alone that we have in our collective bargaining. So, Chief Hurd, in his $70 million that he had, was the 153 positions that he has gotten already, because we already have 62. So he was accounting for the 153 positions that he has, which is about $70 million within the 5 years. So if we already have half of those positions, so it wouldn't be the cost, the complete 70 million that he was talking about. But he was just referring to a total that he has added and is projecting to add within the next 5 to 7 years moving forward. So just a clarification that money comes into debt service payments, so we still need to fund the operations of it.
So we have $15 million more. I would think that's average 15, 16, 17 with projected growth, or maybe 18, right? Over the next 5 years, that's going to be coming in extra every year. Automatically, assuming we get all these FTEs, and with what we've already hired, it's going, no, not what we were hired, what the agreement is, according to the CBA, we got 3 million, about 3 million is what you said, plus the 2.8, so $6 million a year extra than what we're paying right now, and going to continue to grow, of course, because we're going to have to hire.
Now, we are also looking.
And there's only 15 to 18 million dollars that's going to increase every year.
Yes.
Plus, we still have fire or police. Plus, there's other things that need to be funded.
We are looking at something that wasn't mentioned in the presentation, is that we are looking at funding those 38 positions that we funded this year. General fund funded them for 6 months, but we are looking at a grant. If we get that grant, that's going to help us this year and kind of help us moving forward. So we are hopeful that we do get that award for those 38 cadets for this year.
But we're just looking at fire right now. So it's you still got all the other needs in the city. We still got police to deal with, and that's gonna throw those 15 million under the
That's what I'm
table.
saying. It's gonna get eaten up real quick. And I'm just for the record, I'm not. I think this is a need. It is. We need to go in with our eyes wide open. As exactly what are we gonna do?
And to be honest, this is why I asked if I could speak. Because, no, I don't think anyone here wants to set us up for failure. And so having this conversation is necessary. What are we gonna grow? How much is going to come in? What can we actually fund, right? And you know, I applaud everyone presenting of what's really needed. At the end of the day, we're gonna be tied to the budget.
Well, it's all needed. It's what can we afford is
Right,
a
and
real
so
question.
at the end of the day, though, I think our staff is more than capable to project these numbers and say, you know what, maybe we can't ask for 10 stations, okay, but we can do 2, right? This is what our budget, and this will give us a real shot at passing this bond with our citizenry. It'll give us a great shot at expanding the city and providing the services, and whatever council is going to approve, that exactly like you said, they're going into it with their eyes wide open. Not only as a firefighter, I look at it as a citizen, right? We've had this conversation. In my family, there's myself and a couple of brother-in-laws. Other than that, my entire family is not a firefighter. So it'd be selfish for me to say, you know, let me just get whatever I can. It's not the way we operate. It's not the way we operate as a fire department, not the way we operate as an association or as a union. And so looking at this, we should marry our proposals, no matter what council is going to approve or this committee is going to approve, with our expected rate of increase, and tie those together so that we can move forward with a referendum that has a good shot of passing, but also making an impact in everyone's life.
Agreed.
Now, just a really quick question, Chief, the 153, the 153, FTEs, is that, just the bare minimum, or is that, sort of the wish list, right? If I could have it all, or are we just kind of scratching the surface with 153?
That's what we have projected, because of the new units that we're adding. Every time we activate a new unit, we need to add additional FTEs. Best practices and per our contract, two things. The additional fire trucks, the ladder trucks, the ambulances, and also at the same time, projecting the administrative staff that we have to increase too. So it's 153 minus the 62, so that's what we're actually asking for, 91. That's what 91 FTEs added over the next 5 to 7 years. That's what we're requesting for.
But my question is more, are you being conservative with that number, or should it be higher, should it be lower? Is that just, just trying to meet the need? That's more than anything. Is it going to be adequate 5 to 7 years, or should we be looking at a higher number?
Oh, that's conservative. That's what best practices shows us right now. Can I add additional staff? Yes, I can, but it's a specific formula that we have. Every time we activate a fire truck, we have so many firefighters. Every time we activate an ambulance, so many firefighters. And then the administrative staff, which is a little bit harder to calculate, but at the same time, you need that support staff too. So we do feel that that is an adequate number. It's not too aggressive, and it's not too conservative. It's right in the middle too, so. Councilman Vela, I do have a spreadsheet. I know I was being advised by my staff that shows the breakdown per year of the salary that we're requesting. I could easily look for it right now, put it in a pen drive, and show it to you when the police chief is done. And that shows you the exact amount that we're asking with the FTEs too. We had already broken down that, so.
Thank you.
On that note, I know that the subcommittee will continue to meet, and so I'm sure they're going to continue working on this numbers and the projects, and perhaps maybe give us a updated presentation later.
This committee has made a recommendation.
Got it.
So, the chief's recommendation has been recommended by the committee.
Got it.
Already.
Okay.
And so is the police chief. So if any additional meetings that we might need, just let us know if there's anything that we need to do. But go ahead, Chief.
Just to add one thing before you make a motion or approve is, and to segue of what our union president was saying too about growth in the city too. So I forgot to mention ISO impact. ISO is a rating that every fire department in the United States gets. How does that directly impact the consumer? Depending on your ISO rating is what the insurance premium you get for your house and your business. ISO basically says they rate of how fast we were able to conserve property. We have two big missions in the fire department: saving lives and conservation of property. Over about 6-7 years ago, under the leadership of Chief Landin, we went from an ISO rating of 4 to 2. This year, that's why we hired the consultant. We're going to officially be an ISO rating of 1. We're moving from 2 to 1. What does that mean for the consumer or the business owner? It means approximately a 2% decrease in their insurance premiums. We've been told by city managers, mayors from other cities, that 3 big things that new businesses look at when opening a business or moving a business in a new city is quality of life for their employees, tax abatement, and ISO rating. Having that ISO rating 1 is going to help us attract businesses. That's, I know, a big thing that the city council and the mayor is always advocating. We are a higher ISO rating than the next closest fire station too. So we would have an advantage of hopefully drawing in that business, because it shows that we can protect their investments, their million square foot warehouses they're building by Mine Road. So we can show that we really protect that investment too. But in order to continue having that ISO rating, we need to have those stations, those fire trucks that we are asking for here too. So there is a direct economic impact to the request that we are making.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Good afternoon. There it is. There it is, right. Right. So pretty much, we're asking for space, and so you're gonna see here a whole list of what our ask is. And Chief Miguel Rodriguez, for the record, Mr. Chairman, we presented a bunch of numbers and a bunch of options to our committee. But one of the things that we kept, I guess, for us is, you know, trying to see what we can prioritize in our ask, and going around and explaining why we were asking for this specific items. You know, we couldn't shave off a lot of them. And so one of the things that you're gonna see as a big ticket number is gonna be the LPD headquarters. That is the reason, the number one reason why we're here. We've been asking council to fund us for an annex, and I think even back then when Councilman Roque was here, we've been asking for funding to add space, additional space to our current headquarters. The problem with our current headquarters is that it doesn't belong to the city, it belongs to the airport. So we're leasing that property to the airport. And I know people get confused over, well, the airport is the city, and the city, well, pretty much is, the city's funding the airport through that rent. So in trying to even do something to the headquarters with our seizure funds, we can't do it because it's a leased property that does not belong to the city. So all this started by asking for more space. Why? Because in 1996, when we first moved into this headquarters, we had already outgrown it. Back then, we were 233 officers, and we had no more space when we moved into that headquarters. That's 233 officers. Today, we're 575 officers. And so there's no way we fit in that headquarters. So what we did in 2001, we ended up moving to an annex that we showed the committee. It was an annex that was built in 1961, I believe. And that space was full of asbestos, full of mold. And so we ended up moving away from that one in 2019, and we moved to another space, which is the Tony Sanchez building. Again, a building that was built in 1960. We poured so much money into that building, well, the city poured so much money into that building to make it work, and still to this date, it's at bare minimum. We continue to have problems with that building. We put new air condition to that building, and we still have issues with that building. One of the things that we have a bigger issue on all these buildings is the fact that the CGS compliance on those buildings is shut. We have our patrol units unsecured. Some of the information that we have in those buildings, we have to secure with an access card so that we can know who goes in and goes out. There is the fiber optic that we had to put in there, and the amount of money that was invested there, still we're not up to date to that. So what we did, we just ended up securing the area where we have our computers so that we can be CGS compliance in that one space. So a lot of the problems that we bring into you, that we brought to the committee as to why the need is because of that. So our headquarters itself, right now, and I said this last time when we met, is when we have a sexual assault victim and we have the suspect in custody, a lot of the times when we're gonna take the suspect into interrogation, sometimes they meet the victim because the space was not made to the way we police now. The way we police now is very, very different as opposed to what the 1990s. So today, this is the reason why we pivot, right? We try to figure out ways to make sure that we continue operating, but we're very inefficient when it comes to things like that. So the big ticket here you're gonna see as our police headquarters, and one of the main reasons why we're asking for it also is because our 911 communication is still operating like we were in the 1990s. We used to have one channel one, which covers the entire patrol fleet that's out there in service. So at times, we have over 300 officers working, and you have one channel one, which is our priority channel. The reason, sometimes they ask, Sir, Chief, why is it that
there's a big turnover with dispatchers. It is because of that one reason. That when they're communicating over the radio, one dispatcher to prioritize all the calls, and then another dispatcher to call in the request for a checkup on wanteds and wanted persons or stolen vehicles. We got two dispatchers handling the entire police force at a given shift. So when we talked about how can we expand this 911 center, there's no way. There's no space to expand from there. So one of the things that we showed the committee was we took him to that center and we made him understand as to how we're operating. We're all cramped up. We have a bathroom that is being used as a closet. We have an office of a supervisor that is being used as a closet and a filing cabinet area. More than anything is a scanning area. So I wish I could take you there so you can see, but this is the way we're operating in PD, and this is the most important part of an emergency. When the call comes in, that it is being dispatched immediately and it is being handled immediately. For us, year to date, we're upwards of 341,110 calls for service. That's how many calls for service PD handles year to date. We're still missing all of November and we're still missing all of December. So when we're talking about the importance of a 911 center, this is it. When we're talking about what we envision as a 911 center, which is now this environment, is we need to bring our Laredo Independent School District in there. We need to bring our United Independent School District there in that comm center. Why? Because of the current environment that we live in. Our biggest threat right now is to our schools. And when we don't have the right communication coming into our centers, it creates chaos. The chaos that we've already seen it in Alexander. I've seen it in LBJ. Why? The communication factor fails when they're getting a call, we're getting a call, sheriff's office is getting a call, and we're all just being dispatched, and everybody's just moving forward in different directions. So the big thing here is to make sure that we focus on that first response, but more than anything is to make sure that we are no longer having only 2 or 3 dispatchers answering 911's calls for service, and the other 2 are answering our regular lines, and then we have 3 dispatchers dispatching our officers. We also handle fire in that dispatch center, and there's only 1 dispatcher for fire. And so we're doing a disservice to all our officers and our firefighters when we have that, because at this point, we should have an EMT dispatcher and a fire dispatcher available all the time. And then we don't have that right now. We only have 1 dispatcher for firefighters. So we need to make sure that we upgrade that entire center so that we can be operating more efficient from here to 20 years from now. We need to have that space to become operationally efficient now, because right now we're at that verge where we're going to be a total failure if we don't fix it. So right now, that's the biggest issue that we have right now. Detective space, we're shut. We have no more space. As a matter of fact, right now I have captains pretty much working out of a closet. We emptied out closets and put a captain in there to make sure that we continue operating. Again, these are problems and these are the big tickets, and it's pretty much infrastructure. For us, the cost is not going to be hitting the general fund, because we just got a grant last year for 15 officers. We got another grant this year for 25 officers. We're going to be hitting those grants as we move forward so that we don't hurt our general fund. We're still going to hurt him after 3 years because it only covers for 3 years. But this is a way to manage a little bit, not to hurt our general fund money. But at the same time, we're just asking for the need because we don't fit and we cannot operate efficiently with our current status. Our training facility. Our training facility, if you ask me right now, and it's embarrassing that we say it, but I have to say it, we train out of San Martin de Porres. The priest there is being very, very generous with us. We train our officers at that gym, at San Martin de Porres gym, because we do not have a training facility. Our city, a city our size, a department our size, needs a training facility. Why? Because it's the most important aspect of a police department. The first thing that they ask when something goes wrong is, give me the training history of that officer. And if we don't have that training history of that officer, the liability comes back to the city, comes back to the police department. And if we want and we keep on asking for more and more from our police officers, because it went from protecting and serving to now we need to make sure that our officer has the capacity to handle a mental ill person, to be a consultant for marriage, to be even a father to somebody that has to make sure that, talk to a child when they're having problems at home. It's just a big aspect that has been opened up for police officers versus when I first joined in 1997. It's changed dramatically as to the landscape and what the need is from a police officer. What comes with that? Training. What comes with a border town? Training. Why? Because we deal with different aspects of what we do day in and day out. Laredo police officers do not do the same work as somebody that works for Amarillo PD, Lubbock PD, even to a point Austin PD. Austin PD doesn't deal with what we deal here day in and day out. We deal with cartels. We deal with Mexican mafia. We deal with multiple problems within the city. Why? Because of the close proximity to the border. Even though we're very close to the border, our problem with drugs is not as bad as San Antonio. Our problems with stolen vehicles is not as bad as San Antonio. Why? Because we become subject matter experts. Because the approach for PD has been proactive to make sure that we prevent things from happening, right? So one of the things that we keep on pushing to our officers is keep on doing the best with what you got. Keep on doing the best with what you got. We got officers, we got detectives, and I know it's gonna sound funny. We've been in surveillance where they're sitting down, and the time that the guy takes off, they're gonna take off, the car turns off. Why? Because we had vehicles that were already very old, and so operationally inefficient. This time around, we ended up saying, we're not gonna get unmarked units, we're gonna get unmarked units to be able to do that job. We were able to get $2.2 million to change some of our units this year, and we're doing that right now. We actually got a council item next week to do just that. In this package, you're gonna see fleet there. This is what I mean. In this package, you're gonna see specialized police equipment. Our SWAT team has been neglected for the past 15 years. I showed them the Bearcat that we have. It doesn't even have windows anymore. Because those things are very expensive. This year, I got the okay from management to use some of our seizure funds to buy a Bearcat, just one, because it's a $500,000 vehicle. Our weapon system for SWAT also is being upgraded now because it's already end of life, most of them. And they became end of life in 2021. That's when the weapon system went end of life. A lot of the equipment that we have here, specialized equipment, is for that, to be tactically ready and making sure that we are gonna be able to execute whatever comes our way. Our body-worn cameras, you're gonna see that, that's another big ticket, that's $32.8 million. Body-worn cameras, I showed the committee the difference between a good body-worn camera and the body-worn cameras that we're using now. There was a recent officer-involved shooting. I showed the committee the difference in those because one of the officers had the new camera that we're testing, the other officer had the old camera. Big difference. So if a jury finds out and wants to see what exactly transpired during those shots fired from the officer, they're gonna see a very clear picture with the new camera. So it saves us on liability and why the officer made that decision at that point. So this is why it's very important and critical that we buy and move away from our current system, which is already end of life. 138 are already end of life and we're still using them. So this is why that is there. Our redundancy tower, our radios, I'm gonna share that cost with fire. And then the last one is our aviation, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. Right now, because of the situation that's at port, the reason that we have to pivot is we send a bunch of officers that are currently working in other districts in South Laredo, put into direct traffic to help port, and then we automatically have to send 2 units to be on the other side of the traffic for response. Because if there's a domestic dispute, by the time we get there and go through traffic, it's gonna be too late. And so we automatically, they know, whenever this happens, we shift and we put 2 units on the other side so we'll be able to respond a lot faster. The problem also with that is that if at any given point there's a subject barricaded, there's a shots fired at a warehouse, and that we need to deploy our tactical teams or our tactical equipment, imagine going through that traffic without tactical trucks. There's no way we'll be able to get there. So having an aviation unit will be able to help with that. But the reason that I put this in there is because of the recent problem that we have in the city, and everybody knows, right? The big elephant in the room. DPS continues to chase people across our city, putting people in danger, right? And I'll say it very out loud because that's what it is, a chase. We went to a zero pursuit policy for different reasons, right? But the main reason is to protect our public. Our officers know that once they engage, and if it's a Class C misdemeanor, you disengage. We're not gonna follow that guy for a Class C misdemeanor. We're not gonna follow them for an illegal immigration deal. So this is very different from with other agencies. So what did we do? We sat down with DPS and we said, if we have a bird, would you be able to disengage, and we'll let you know where the location is of that vehicle? And they said, yes, Chief. We'll be able, because right now our birds are in the valley, Del Rio, and Eagle Pass. Their helicopter's not here. They'll bring it if needed, but right now, they have no helicopter coming our way. So this is a way, I think it's a small price to pay, even though it's 13.6 million. It's a small price to pay for the safety of our community at the end of the day. And this is the whole scope of what we're asking for. And again, I've been more than glad to answer any questions as to any specific item, but this is the reason why this ask. We pretty much are asking just to be able to accommodate ourselves with our current personnel.
Thank you, Chief. Let me have a chair, maybe you can start off with any questions or any
One of
comments.
the things that I want to share with the committee is you have public safety discussion here today, two very different departments. You heard from the fire department, police department's needs are a little bit different. At this present time, the committee took the time to spend a lot of time at the police department and look at the facility that they're in. It's not functional anymore. It's areas where they bring people they arrest and park underneath the garage. They don't have any parking, maybe one or two cars, that's it. They have to take the prisoner, take him out the vehicle, walk him around the building. You never know what can go wrong with those type of situations. The facility is not applicable to the needs of the police department that we have today. And we understand when the building was built, we understand that. And we discussed with the chief, and the committee brought it up at many various times. Well, what can you do to maybe expand or add to it or look at other facilities and those type of things? The facility right now has to be air conditioned separately with separate units per facilities and offices. You go to see the 911 area, they're on top of each other. 911s are supposed to be separated. When somebody brings a call, the operator can talk. Well, that operator is talking to that person, and the other person is talking to another person, and they're mixing. They're not able to communicate with these folks. It's outdated. They've outgrown their space. We also looked into detail, very much into detail, the vehicles that the police department utilizes. And we recognize that throughout the years, we always provided vehicles through COs. And they used to tell us that wasn't the thing to do, but we didn't have any other choice. That was the only way we could get vehicles to and I think they're still telling us that that's not prior choice. But vehicles, especially for the undercover units and those type of areas, you have to constantly be changing those vehicles. And if you don't have that mechanism in place, that basically puts your police officers in danger, because they got to be changing all the time. The communications area, the body cameras that are the technology that is now available to the police department is totally different than what we had, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. It's different. Just maintaining the technology is a major function. Everything is about technology now, everything. So the training facility that we discussed in this particular area is something that the committee, we talked about joining forces with the fire department and in their areas. They're gonna look into that. Fire department has 200 acres, their training facility, so that's an area that's gonna be looked at very carefully, simply because of trying to maximize the use. The stations that need to be built up at the Mines Road, if any of you have ever been in that area, it's a very difficult task to deal with 18-wheelers on a daily basis. And if you stop one of them, it's gonna stop all the traffic. So they're looking at having an area where they could, if they need to pull over a trailer, they need to take it to a particular site. And they need a place where they need to work out of that. Right now, it's just a rolling the dice and on a daily basis. So we have an opportunity to take a look at all those issues. Is it a big bond package? Yes. It's huge. It's big. Fire department's big, police department is big. But I think anybody that lives in this city will recognize that those two departments are the first two departments that anybody will support. People want fire and police. They want fire and police protection, and I guess lately, water. But these two departments are major. And the committee went through this whole process very carefully. And believe me, we scrutinized and we had a lot of discussions about the bottom line figure. But at the end of the day, we felt that this was something that needed to move forward. As a committee, the committee recommended this particular bond package. It's up to the administration, it's up to the city council to decide whether this is going to be the size of the package that they're going to want to move forward. But we did leave a little meat on it. So we just didn't leave it at the bone. So I think there's going to be that discussion at that point. And hopefully the fire and police bond package can move forward. And we'll finally be able to get to the point where we need to be as a city and be able to provide that service that the police department and the fire department provide. And I think with the staff and city manager and the assistant city managers and the finance, they're going to work out the issues as far as financing personnel and those type of things that need to go with what is being recommended. It has to. And right now you're looking at about, what, 260 million? And these are your first two departments that you listen to. And I think the package that was introduced to us was an 800 million package. I don't know if the committee here is going to want to move forward with that number. I don't know if the council's going to want to move forward with that number. But I can tell you this, that fire and police are your two major components in this bond package.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may, what we're looking for as a subcommittee, as your liaison, coming to you all, representing the subcommittee, is a motion to approve the police package in the tune of $262 million, and the fire presentation of 98 million. So to be presented, we presented it to you all, and if you agree, a motion to move it to the next step, which would be to be presented to the council, so that the council can, and we're first in line, basically. The other committees aren't ready to present to you all. We got ahead of this right away, recognizing public safety is a priority. It has been a priority to our mayor and city council, public safety, and that's why public safety is before you all, the main committee. And so what we're hoping to get from you all is a motion to approve pushing it forward to the city council. So we're at the front of the line. So we don't know what the other committees are gonna bring you, Chairman, committee members. We don't know what the other three committees, I don't know where they're at. I'm not their liaison. I could tell you that in speaking with the health director, that committee is not ready to come before you all. Speaking to the other assistant city manager, comments were being made from that other committee to dump all their money into utilities when they don't have money. Not even police and fire have money to dump anywhere. We're coming to you all to say this is what police and fire need to move forward. To take this to the city council, we're first in line. This committee has worked hard. I'd like to thank the chairman, the vice chair, secretary, and the other members of the committee that met over and over to get here. We're first in line on purpose because police and fire are ready all the time. And so that's why we brought you forward so that you can now move it to the next step. And whatever the other ones come, whenever they show up, they're gonna do the same thing. And it's up to you all to rate them, and those are gonna be issues like infrastructure maybe, because let me make clear something, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Utilities is an enterprise fund. It has a rate structure for the purposes of the projects that need to be done within utilities. The other funds that are coming forward, the health and safety and the recreation centers and all those, they're not, I think the public wants a police car when they call 911 there before they want a rec center, you know, or a fire truck if they're, or an ambulance. And so our desire coming before you, first in line, is to get there so that the public understands. Committee did their work, they analyzed the work that needed to be done, and they brought forward the package to recommend to the public. Because once it goes in front of the council can decide, we'll move this to the public. They can shut it all down at the council level.
Very well. So at this point, I'd like to just kind of make a couple of comments and then find out if anyone wants to move forward with a motion. But, you know, in fact, you know, I think this committee, this subcommittee is the first one to present, and they've been meeting for some time now over the last, you know, 4 weeks or so. From my understanding, and I'm, you know, a member of the subcommittee in the health and wellness, we just had our first meeting last week. We're meeting again this Thursday. And I would imagine that the other subcommittees just recently started meeting as well. And the chairs and the officers were just appointed. We all received the same package that every subcommittee member received. And there was some guidelines in there regarding how much money was going to be allocated for each subcommittee. And the only comment that I have at this point before we open it up to see if anyone's going to make a motion is that the number or the amount of money that's been brought up, you know, between the fire department and also the police department is about $360 million. And we've got $844 million that we received on our guideline for the 4 subcommittees. And so that is a bit of a concern because it's about $110 million more than what the guidelines stipulated. But having said that, is there any other information that needs to be presented or brought up?
If I may, those weren't guidance, they were potential items, or they were estimates, so they're not a final number.
Yes.
So.
Perfect, okay. So, any other questions, anything else that needs to be presented before we move to questions or?
Chairman, I have just a couple of questions. First, Chief, you mentioned, I'm gonna guess it's still called the COPS grant. The grant, it was 40 officers that you got over the,
15 and 25, yes.
no, 40 officers? How many, and this like fire, it's a moving target, right? But how many more officers by getting this new equipment and everything that you need are you anticipating on having to hire? Including the 40 officers, like, you'll be good with that for the next 5 years, not taking into retirees and all that?
Yeah, so right now, what we're asking is to accommodate what we currently have now.
It's mostly just, so it's equipment.
Yes, what we have now. And then, of course, on the OPD headquarters and in our sector stations, we added that contingency, the additional square footage for the future.
Okay.
That's it.
I see the new land for the LPD headquarters is at about $7 a square foot from my calculations. Do you already have land picked out? Because $7 a square foot nowadays is pretty hard to find.
It's, we put it at 350,000 an acre, right?
Yeah.
So we got that number from with the current property that we bought in South Laredo, in Cuatro Vientos.
Okay.
That's about, so a ballpark figure as to what we're looking at for land.
So do you have some areas already picked out?
Of course, the perfect scenario would be somewhere in Saunders. You know, I think we've even seen the location there by the Casablanca Ballroom. That would be for us a perfect location. But again, anywhere where we have immediate access, because that central headquarters is where all the specialized units are going to be at. So it's to be able to deploy from a centralized area to go from there. And so we're looking at anywhere for LPD headquarters, anything on Saunders, for the training facility, anything on 59, and we're recommended by the committee to talk to fire and trying to see maybe Mines Road. We want to stay away from Mines Road as much as possible.
That would not be good.
But at the end of the day, if push comes to shove, we just need a training facility to train our officers.
My only concern with this is that number. That's not going to be an accurate number for 15 acres, especially if it's going to be centrally located. You're just not, if you can even find 15 acres and centrally located, it's not going to be at $7 a square foot. That's just not going to happen. Thirdly, I had another question, another concern, and it slipped my mind. So right now we're at 51 cents a square. 51 cents is our tax rate. When I was there, it was 63 cents, 63.7, I think is what it was. So we've come down significantly since then, and that's because a lot of bonds have matured since then, which is why we're going out for this bond package. So there's some wiggle room there, right? This with these two, it puts us at about 7.5 cents from my calculations. So we'll go from 51 to 58, 59 cents. I know my committee isn't in a hurry to spend any money. I don't know what you guys' committees are like, but mine is. There's not in a hurry to spend money. So, you know, this is going to put us, we might end up around that 10 cents, which still puts us below the 63 cents that we used to be, you know, 9 years ago. Just my comment. Thank you, Chief.
Questions, I'll let you go.
The question is not necessarily for the chief, but I'm trying to understand the process here. It sounded like there was going to be some feasibility that was going to possibly come in about how we're going to cover, you know, any additional expenses for payroll. And if we're approving these projects up front, you know, I would, at least from my own perspective, before I go to recommend anything to city council, know that I'm going to ask the citizens to pay X number for this bond package, and there's going to be additional taxes either through the property tax, which is capped at 3.5. So again, Mr. Nevin noted that there's only so much wiggle room on that. So we're going to have to increase taxes by this. I mean, at least my preference, and maybe it's a different process, and I kind of looked through it, and I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I would at least like to understand, all right, we're going to ask the citizens for this through the special election, but what are we actually asking overall to make sure that we cover the other expenses?
And you're talking again about the operational costs, right?
Yeah, it's an impact analysis, right? You know, we talked about COs not being used for this, so maybe there's free and it's not gonna increase, but I would like to understand that. Is that part of this process?
And again, that is the intent. Once that you've identified those items from all the subcommittees, then we'll come back and give you a more comprehensive analysis on all those M&Os and exactly what we can afford.
Just from my perspective, that sounds like a motion now on this package would be premature if we're gonna have
Yeah, we don't have to.
a further analysis. I'm just, you know, first time I've been on a committee like this.
No,
so-
I think it's prudent to think that way as, you know, the presentations have been made, the questions have been asked, what's gonna be the impact, and I know David did a great job of breaking it all down, but, we need more time to be able to digest it, exactly how much of the projected growth, how much money, because, again, we're looking at, it's another $6 million a year for fire, and we're projecting it maybe anywhere between $16 to $18 million every year. Fire already ate up a third of it, you know, and the general, I call the general fund a black hole. Like, it's just, there's never enough money in the general fund, so we have to, we have to be cognizant of that, and I think it's the right thing to do to, you know, pump the brakes a little bit. We still have some other stuff. We're not ready. I mean, I'm kind of have an idea what's gonna happen, but we're not ready to move forward. We're gonna have to meet again. That gives staff an opportunity to be able to bring forward the M&O and see exactly what the impact is gonna be in, so we can go in this with the eyes wide open.
Chairman Vasquez?
Yeah, so Chief, really quickly, I know what it's like to work out of a closet. My office, my office currently is a closet, and that's what happens when organizations grow. So, you know, you're fighting for space, and then you got somebody who just got a promotion, and hey, here's your new office. It's a closet, right? So no, I understand what happens with the growth, and then with the growth, the explosion of Laredo, the headquarters would add how much more space currently to what you already currently have at the moment?
So we currently have about 62,000 square feet at our headquarters, and we have 22,000 square feet at the Tony Sanchez building. So adding those up, it's about 80-something square feet. We want to get to 120,000 square feet, and the reason for that is to accommodate for our SWAT, our traffic division, all the divisions that are right now in a 400 square foot area. And you have, in those 400 square foot areas, you have about close to 15 officers reporting there. It's unacceptable. We shouldn't be working like that.
So this new facility would bring all those divisions together under one roof?
Except for the training.
Except
With
training
exception for the
goes to-
training. Now, on the training facility, what would that encompass? Would that, what type of training, I guess, aspects would be included in the facility?
So everything that now TICO has addressed on, mainly every single topic that is mandatory for the police department. Also, tactical readiness. We definitely need what we call a Hogan's Alley. Right now, we're just qualifying with our handguns once a year. We should be qualifying at least twice a year. But the reason that we don't do that is because the space that we currently have right now is at 59, and we only have so many bays. So to be able to get everybody around the corner to do that, it's not feasible. So right now, that is what we're gonna be doing in that training facility. Plus, it's an everyday thing with policy and new things that are coming up. We're also creating we wanna create it where it's gonna be a hub for all border law enforcement to come and train. And that'll also spike up our hotel, motel revenues to be able to provide that training. Because we are, if you look at every single city, and I'll say this I'll be very honest with you. We are the safest city in Texas. And when we're talking about border security, we are the subject matter experts when we're talking about border security. So when somebody wants to know about how to collaborate and talk about border security and our current intel system, they come to Laredo. They come to us. So for us to be able to provide that training across the board to all border entities and other agencies across the state, it'll bring in that factor to come and train to Laredo. And so we just want a facility to train for us just now, right later on we can worry about the rest. But the main issue with the training facility now is that I took him to that little space where we have a couple of computers, and that's for 575 officers to train there. It's unacceptable, again. And so this is the reason why we were moving that training facility to have the rooms, to have the Hogan's Alley, to have the simulators, to have the track for pursuits, to have the track to make felony stops, to have the track to make traffic stops. All those things matter in policing.
I just a couple more things really quickly, because it's a lot to kind of go through, but, you mentioned you're doing about 300, you've done, year to date, 350,000, calls. What is that increase since your tenure, or maybe you can kind of shed light, because I'm big on data and analytics, because data, men lie, women lie, numbers don't, right? So the numbers always tell you a story, they paint a picture, and year over year, what has that increase been like? What do those calls look like? How drastic are those calls? Because I know you mentioned safety. Can you highlight some of those numbers really quickly of what that projection looks like in those 5 to 7 years with this bond?
So I can give you a broad comparison, right? So 2017, we were somewhere around 278,000 calls for service. We jumped to 300,000, over 300,000 in 2019. This year, we're hitting about 375,000 to 385,000 calls for service. And this is just PD. I'm not even talking about fire. Fire is not included in that number. And this is just calls for service. And again, we're doing some things in the police department to help us deploying the officers, right? One of the things that we're going to be launching probably in about the next 2 weeks is going to be online reporting. Online reporting is going to take about close to 50 to 18% of our calls, and which is great, because that's what we want. If we can just send somebody to an online platform versus sending the officer to make the report, that's great on our side. So we're doing a couple of things that's going to help us with that. There's other technology that's also going to help us, for example, on the 911 centers, right? We are going to start testing in the near future, not yet, our AI component of answering regular calls, not 911 calls, regular calls. Police department, how can I help you? If you need service for this, press 1. If you need service for that, press that, and whatever. And then they can also talk to an AI automated system. We're being very careful with AI because, again, for policing, you need that human touch. You cannot let go of that. So we're being very careful with that. So there's a lot of technology that we're implementing to help address the current problem that we have with calls. But at the end of the day, shots fired, domestic violence, all those things you need a police officer there.
On the helicopter, the aviation piece, in talking to DPS, so DPS has said if you get a couple of birds, they will not engage, or they'll rely on LPD for, because we've become high speed chase capital of Texas ever since DPS kind of rolled around. It's not a dig at DPS, but it's just more at, if you've been paying attention, there's a high-speed chase almost every single day.
Every single day.
With the helicopters, that'll reduce the number of high-speed chases we'll see, or is that, how would that process
So definitely on that, that's a conversation that we've had, and that is the way policing works. So whenever you engage in a chase, you have a helicopter, you let them know, like, hey, we're up, we already have the vehicle, we're following it, stand down kind of thing. Once the vehicle stops, okay, he stopped at Kearney and Monterrey, right? Now the officers get there, subject's running this way, subject's running that way. Whatever it is, the big thing that we want to do is for them to disengage. Now, it's not only for that, but it's also for critical situations, right? You have something at LBJ, you want to get a TAC team there right away. You can fly in a tactical team. You want to get somewhere, you need the help right away, that bird is going to be able to land. So that's what helicopters do, right? Also for us, can also be used for intelligence, right? There's a lot of things that you can do when you're trying to make sure that you have that upper hand as far as, the tactical advantage when you're going to go hit a house, when you're going to go do anything that has to do with tactical readiness. So there's a lot of things that come with the helicopter and a lot of pluses. But my main thing for this was so we can disengage from those chases. Chases are very dangerous. you know, within our department, Chase itself has killed one of our officers' parents. And so we take it very serious when we're talking about chases, right? Because we've seen it. I've seen it when I was in patrol and there was a chase. And back then there was zero tolerance. We would chase everybody until the end. And I've been in situations where they crash into somebody and they've killed a person. And when you see that, it shocks you right away that all for what? An ounce of marijuana? It's not worth it. But again, there is still agencies that continue to engage and continue doing that. We need to make sure that we go around.
I had a couple of questions and then we'll, move over to Chairman Olivares.
Can I make some comments?
Yes.
I am the vice chair for this committee.
Sure.
If you all don't mind.
Mhm.
So, I've been hearing the back and forth and probably the no motion this evening, but as a committee member to this committee, we took our assignment seriously. And by doing so, we came and we actually met in every single of our meetings. We even had executive session items that actually gave us a very clear picture when it came to the police department. We actually also engaged into meetings we actually took a tour of the police department. We actually also spoke with the fire department and actually did all the needs assessment as far as that goes. Now, in going to your question, Mr. Alanis, as far as what were the numbers that were generated per committee, that was also a question that I did have myself and that I did question during one of the committee meetings, because I just didn't understand if we were having a $262 million bond versus to also a $98 million bond. How was it that we were packaging this information? Now, the questions behind the M&O process were also questioned and asked. All those Q&As did come to our committee. We were very thorough in our committee meeting. We asked the questions that we needed to ask. And going back, all of us need to already remove the idea that there's a water issue. That water issue is going to be addressed, and none of this bond referendum has nothing to do with that. So going forward into this particular bond packaging, what we need to start understanding is that unfortunately Laredo has grown so much that we're always 10 years behind, even our sister city of San Antonio, Corpus, or anywhere else. We're almost handling a budget of $1 billion, and here we are discussing just the needs of the police department and the fire department that should have been addressed. The police department has a facility that honestly, I wouldn't even want to work in because it's not feasible. We are having people calling 911 to get a service that this city should be providing to the best of their ability and in excellence. But we are not providing that because in the committee meeting, we did have an explanation as far as the priority calls are even being done. So if your car was stolen, you have to wait 5 hours because there is a domestic abuse problem, and that's priority one. So we need to start understanding that we did our work and we did our assignment. So I understand that you might not want to take a vote tonight, but that's why our subcommittee was ready, and we actually went to every single one of our meetings, and we actually prioritized to make sure that we presented to y'all a packet that was ready to be taken to City Council. Because of the mere fact that we saw everything and we have clear of a picture. And even if the M&O on the financial end, everything will always come back with M&O, no matter what we do. And that is something that we really need to understand, comprehend, because public safety is a real issue in this city. We cannot brag that we are the safest city without looking at the elephant in the room, and that's the cartel that has infiltrated into our city. Now, many of you might live in the north side of this city. I don't. I live in Santo Niño, yo vivo en el barrio. I know the difference between when a shot is fired and it's a 40, it's a 9mm, and it's an AK. All I do is just turn, that's it. But I don't leave the barrio because I'm comfortable, and that's where I was born. But it's not safe sometimes in the barrio because you hear it all the time. They sound like firecrackers, and you're just okay with it. So we need to start really understanding that we did an assignment to get done, and we're here and we're ready to present to council. I understand that many of you your committees are not meeting, but that really doesn't have to do anything with the bond packaging that we are doing, because we did take our committees seriously. The committee members are here, even in our audience, ready today for any questions that you might have. So, for y'all not to want to take a vote today is basically telling us to go back to the drawing board. And to be honest with you, going back to the drawing board is basically slicing and dicing this bond packaging, and it's not fair to the citizens of Laredo. As a taxpayer myself, it's not fair as well. So, I mean, hopefully you all make a better decision into voting for this today, because it is in dire, this city is in dire need of public safety and the betterment, for the betterment of our taxpayers and our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Garcia. Let me just make the comments I was gonna make, and then we'll, see if anybody else has any other comments or questions before we move forward. But, my understanding is that we've not had a bond referendum since 1996. Correct. So it's been a long time. There's been some other, projects that, you know, have got to the voters, and the voters have turned them down. So each subcommittee and each member in that subcommittee is being tasked to do a job in presenting, you know, what we need for each one of the 4 categories. And not only do we have to sell this to our city council, but then we're gonna be tasked in selling this to our community. So we have to be a strong voice for all 4 categories, because we get one shot. If we don't do a good job and we're not unified, then we're not going to be able to sell this to our community, and that's our goal. I think everybody that's been selected to participate in the subcommittees have been selected because you guys are true leaders in your own business or in your own community. So I applaud you for that, and I applaud, you know, everyone that's present today, and applaud, you know, our fire department personnel and our police officers for your service, okay? I did have one question, okay, or actually a couple of questions before we move on. And I have a little bit of experience and knowledge on this, and I'm just seeing the numbers, you know, of the cost of a building, and I'm not certain, you know, why each, presentation had a cost of, per square feet for a building of $700 and $650 a square feet. Is that, you know, because it's a special building, or because, I mean, to me, I mean, that's about more than twice of what the going rate is in building a building.
So, when we first started in this, you know, for us,
Let me answer that question. That is a normal price, and it's not a secret that I am a LAISD board member, and I have $115 million that is being just utilized in South Laredo, District 7 right now. Right now, the price of steel went up 80%. So whatever square footage was actually generated before, as far as it being anywhere from the 450s to the 500s, or even at $300, because of the inflation and pricing, it went up to almost $650. So even right now, I even told both chiefs that they were being very, very conservative when it came to the square footage that they were actually utilizing. Now, we have a new president. We might probably see something very different that might happen. But even at that, there might be even an opportunity for them to go, if they are successful with this packaging of this bond and actually getting it to the voters and the voters voting for it, what can end up happening at the end of the day, year 2, year 3, we can probably refinance, and there could probably be a room of cushion to be able to infiltrate back into the money and look at the square footage. And actually the square footage, maybe even going for the guaranteed maximum price, could be very different at the end of the day. But for now, the pricing that they have is a pricing that is actually right now at the market now. The price of steel is 80% up, even lumber and everything else, even just to pour cement, is very expensive. So what they actually packaged is actually a true number that is living set today.
Well, and I'm just, I'm not going to debate the issue, but, you know, I do practice commercial real estate, and those numbers seem to be pretty high. But anyhow.
So I'll let.
Go ahead.
And really quickly, Chief, does the 700 include, like equipment, furniture?
So this is, for us, is 650, and we got this number from Slay Architecture. They recently have done a couple of buildings, including public safety buildings. Now, keep in mind, our buildings are designed a little bit different.
That's why I was asking that.
So we have a Sally Port, right? We have our processing rooms. We also have to make sure that if we do have any windows whatsoever, which we're gonna have. In this day of age, before we didn't care, our windows are not bulletproof right now because we're at the airport. But if we're gonna be in an area where it's gonna be more accessible to the public, they have to be bulletproof. And so those are things that the Slay Architecture did add into consideration. Also, the other thing that's adding up to this number is the technology that is needed to be CHS compliance.
And I'm sure you'll have all that information, you know,
The security.
quotes and all that information when we get to that point. Okay. The other question that I had is,
When we get to what? What is your comment right there? When we get to what? This is it.
I understand. There's a couple of more questions that I had regarding personnel. How many police officers do we have?
575 commission.
575, and then
100
administration?
120, sorry, 575 commission police officers, and we have non-sworn, we have 123
123.
non-sworn.
Perfect.
Civilians.
And the cameras was the other question that I had, you know, how many cameras are you planning, or you propose, or how many are budgeted for in this, and then
body
what's the
cam?
cost of them? Yes.
It's for every patrol car that's out there and every police officer. We're also adding the camera systems to our narcotics unit and to our SWAT team. And that is for the accountability and the integrity part of everything that we do.
Perfect. Okay. Any other questions?
I just have one, I just want to make a question here, a point to our finance director. Can you get up there?
Finance?
Yeah,
Yes.
both of you. If this bond package wouldn't go forward, we wouldn't be sending anything to the voters or anything. How are you gonna finance the fire and police department next year as far as all their needs that they have?
Jesus Esparza with the budget department. And that has been the struggle in the year-to-year budgeting process, that every year the departments submit their requests. We're approving anywhere from 20 to 40% of the requests that they have in there. The vehicles and equipment are COs that we issue on a yearly basis, anywhere in the tune from $30 to $45 million. So that's our capacity as where we're at right now. That was one of the reasons that management decided that it was time to come forward with a bond referendum, so that we could, catch up with a lot of these items that are needed. So that's the reasoning for that referendum to be.
So basically, the budget couldn't substantiate even the first year for fire and police. That's their request as far as funding.
Well, let me clarify that. We have been working, as we go through our budget process, we have our priorities. Public safety has always been one of our priorities. We have been able to work with the fire department and adding those 62 firefighters that we needed for those 2 fire stations that are in the works right now. What has happened is that we have to prioritize what we're doing. So one of the other items that is in consideration with one of the other committees is our street paving program. So that's another item that we have been able to, we're falling behind on those items because there's not enough in our capacity currently to issue bond to cover all those items in there.
Because you're paying for vehicles that are not there anymore.
Well, no, we're paying, when they do the financing, and Tony can probably explain that a little bit better, we look at everything that we're buying and the life expectancy of those cars. So those cars, if it's a 5-year expectancy, they get paid up first, even though it's a 10, 15, 20-year term for the whole bond. So there is consideration that we're not paying for something that is no longer in use.
So basically, if you were to get the support of this bond package, and that's the analysis that we've been talking about all day here, all night, as far as releasing, funds that you normally would have to be directing to them and utilizing them elsewhere in other departments.
What this process is doing is whatever we're gonna go and finance, 300, 500, $800 million, that the voters are giving us a right to increase those cents, 10 cents, 20 cents, whatever that amount is. So we're gonna get earmarked those amounts of pennies coming into the debt, for the debt service payment from the voters. So then there's the M&O side. So there's another, when we increase some of these buildings, we might need custodians, we have more electrical, utility bills that come in. There's another portion that might need to be addressed, which is the M&O side. So we might be coming later on as, the first process is identifying what's gonna be in this bond referendum and getting the voters' approval to build this, buildings and all that. Once we get that and we identify which year we're gonna issue those, we're gonna come back and look at our budgeting process on a year basis. How much new money do we have? What can we afford at this point? We might have to come back and say we need more money on the M&O side because we need more peace officers or firefighters. And we will be doing that as we go through the process.
Questions? Questions? All right.
And one more comment before we move forward, if there's gonna be a motion, presented.
I make a motion that we accept the recommendation from the Public Safety Committee to recommend to the council the bond package for the fire and police at the rate of $360,564,409.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second.
Discussion.
Discussion,
Please.
questions?
Some passion. It's always, don't expect anything less from Mr. Rangel. This is a really big number, right? And we're all concerned, we're all invested, and making sure that we all digest this properly, and making sure that, again, I can't say this often enough, and look, I'll be honest, you want to talk about the elephant in the room? The elephant in the room is the people of Laredo don't trust city government right now. That's just a fact. Can't trust our water being clean. Can't trust us not giving pay raises to where they don't belong. Can't trust that it's being spent where it needs to spend, and that's what it has nothing to do with this bond package. It has nothing to do with the need. It has nothing to do with the work that this committee has made. There's no trust. And because of that, on the heels of all of this going on, pay raises, bad water, we're asking for $300 million. And again, it's not that there's not a need. It's just there's this lack of trust. And if we're going to do this, and there's going to be something that's going to, because like in my committee, they don't want to send nothing on the pipes. And I'm saying, guys, we gotta put something in front of them, right? So at the end of the day, we're gonna put something in front of city council. It doesn't have to be today. I know you guys want it to be today. It does not have to be today. That doesn't mean it's gonna change either. Everybody needs to be comfortable with this. And right now, for many different reasons, just not comfortable with it. Doesn't mean there isn't a need, Chief, doesn't mean there's not a need. That's just the reality of where this city is right now. The people don't trust government. That's not your fault. That's not your fault. That's not your fault. That's just the reality we're dealing with right now.
Justin?
Like when I raised my question earlier, this isn't a need, that this committee didn't work. My own committee met 3 or 4 times. I know that y'all have worked diligently. When I saw my committee meeting every other week, y'all were meeting every single week. This is not an indictment of anyone or that work wasn't done. It's, I'm being asked to vote on this. I guess this is the quorum here, and then to champion it. I just want to understand it. I want to understand it better and, have the time to understand the impacts of it. And at this point, it's not a yes, no, or anything like that. I just want to understand better what I'm being asked to support when we're looking at $360 million ask to the people of Laredo.
One of the reasons why the council selected committees was basically so these committees could go out and do their work. If the infrastructure committee comes up and makes a recommendation, you have to take that recommendation because they've done that work. You know, we've done the work, and we wouldn't be making this recommendation if we didn't feel that there was something that was needed in this community. And I think everybody recognizes that. You know, there's a price to pay to live in Laredo, Texas. And it's fire and police. That's what you go for, right off the bat. And there's other committees that are gonna have to come and make their presentation. How much work have they put into it? We put in a lot of work because we felt that the fire and the police chief were prepared and they had their information ready. And we took it, we analyzed it, we dissected, we moved it around, and we felt that this was something that could go before the council. It's not a guarantee that this is the full amount that the council is going to recommend to go to the citizens. But at least we already took a process that we worked on and we brought it forward so that they can at least say, okay, we have something here. Okay, let's cut it in half, or you know what, let's send it forward. But at least they have a process in their hands. And that's what this committee did, and that's what we worked on.
If I could iterate on that.
Go ahead, Mr.
We're not
Mata.
gonna bring the items to council until we have the complete.
That is correct, and I was looking at that timeline as well, so, Mr. Vasquez?
So really quickly, and I'll just, I think that the need is there and, you know, it's justified. But, the one thing that I will say, and after this, once it's all complete, is that, to Councilman Vela's point, is that you're gonna need a major campaign to support this effort. You're gonna need a major, promotional, community outreach campaign. We've seen this happen before, time and time again, because this is a need. Just like the convention center was a need, just like other items have been a need. And Rick, I see you shaking your head, but it is a need. We are losing. Why do you think the chief is talking about bringing in other people to the city? Because we cannot hold a convention here in the city. He can't hold, even though, you know, who is it, CPAT or CTPAT? They've offered to come to Laredo, bring heads and beds. We're losing out because we don't have a convention center, and people have voted it down because. And we're not going to get into that discussion, but you want to know why it failed? Because the public outreach, the marketing campaign, everything that went around to educate the public on the real need failed.
Yeah.
And that's my only fear. I support fire and police 100% on this. I see the need there, but that's the only little note that I'm going to add is that you're going to need a major campaign of support and outreach to make sure this thing flies. So, I second Chuy's motion.
Mr. Chairman, I want some clarification from
Yes.
you all, because we're done. Our committee's done.
Yeah,
We're
that was gonna be
that's our
my next comment is.
I mean, what do you want us to do? Because if you tell us to come back next meeting, I'm asking the chair of the whole committee to put us first, because we're ready to we're gonna tell you the same thing again.
Can I take that one?
Yes, you can, but let me also just chime in real quick, and I'll make my comments, and then I'll let the rest of you guys, make any other points, before, calling the vote. I think that the public safety is, from all the four categories, has got to be at the very top. And I'm not saying that, $361 million in change, when we were given some guidelines as to 250 being the number. I'm not saying that it doesn't have to be, or it should be 250, right? In our committee, we're looking at some things. We have a meeting on Thursday. There are some monies that probably we're not going to be able to utilize. So I think that we need to allow the other committees to at least hear from some of the presentations. There's probably going to be monies that are not going to be used in some of the other committees that might be applicable to the public
That
safety.
has nothing to do with our
I
committee.
understand. understand.
This is as important as us voting on water. You all want clean water, we all want clean water, we're gonna get clean water if we're gonna pay for clean water. The one thing that civilizations taught us is when they start is water and security. That's what thrives. I understand your passion for the rest, and it comes with it, but without that, we don't have anything else. And we've been kicking the can down the road for water, and we've been kicking down the can down the road for security. If you were to seen what this committee's seen, if you would have heard what we heard in executive session, I guarantee you, you'd be voting on it right now, 5-0. Okay?
And not only that, I want to echo into the, piggyback into your comments, Councilman Vela. While you are saying that, you know, people don't trust this government, I'm not part of this council. At the end of the day, I'm part of this committee, the Public Safety Committee. And with that being said, going back to the comments of Mr. Laurel, yes, we did see a lot of things that a lot of you wouldn't want to see happen in your neighbor's house. So that's why we are very, extremely passionate and ready to move forward with this particular bond as far as public safety goes, because safety is important, the same way water is. So have we kicked the can down the road? We've been kicking the can down the road, and it's like I told Chief Landin, and I told even the committee members that were there. At the end of the day, the problem that the kicking of the can continues to happen is because the decision makers do not make the decision that needs to happen and are afraid to make it happen when it's supposed to happen. So that's as far as I want to say.
So, a couple of things, and I still don't know how this vote's gonna go, but, if we bring this back, you said what next, right? Number one, it's, a more clear answer as to how the M&O is going to affect the general fund.
We have it on the slide, and it's in your presentation.
It wasn't answered clearly earlier today. Number two, if, let's just say we take a vote on this right now, does that speed up the process of when the bond, the vote for the bond is going to come out? It's gonna be made, whether we vote tonight on this or we vote.
Yeah, but at least we're done, Mr. Vela.
Well, your work's done, and nobody's saying that you didn't do your work. I mean, that's not, don't take personal offense to that. It has nothing to do with that. Just, I want, and I think I'm speaking for the rest of the council, for the rest of the committee, is we have other committees that are being presented, and I have a number in my mind as to what I can live with, how much our tax rate is going to increase. I'd like to see how much more, what the other committees are presenting, because they can come up with something, you know, $100 million over than what they had first intended to. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but that could be the case. So, again, I think it would be prudent to just wait until all of that comes to fruition. Secondly, thirdly, going back to the chairman's comments, I remember when I was at city council talking, and I was up on the third floor talking to Carlos Villarreal. His name gets mentioned often, right? He's up there and he would always talk about what the difference is between Nuevo Laredo and Laredo. And when you cross that river, it's different. Why is it different? Because we invest in public safety. And nobody is undermining that or not saying how important it is. It just, there's got to be, we have to understand what we're getting ourselves into. Public safety is number one now, will be number one later. Well, I don't know if we continue to have this water issue, and it may be 1A and 1B. But, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's vital in any community, to your point, especially in the border community. It's absolutely important. That being said, there's a motion, and there's a second. I would like to amend. I would like to amend. Well,
Go ahead.
I would like to amend it. There hasn't been a second, so I can still speak on calling for the question. There hasn't been a second on the calling for the question. So anyway, amend the motion to approve that number with the caveat that we can come back to it at the end to readdress it if we need to, because that number has just gotten too high. In other words, we're approving it, but yes, but we're still leaving it on the back burner, so to speak, to come back and revisit that.
And if I may, Chairman,
Go ahead.
I think the one thing that I was was gonna say, we wanna mobilize real quick on this, and I know that we're gonna need a big campaign on all this. And this is why we need to make sure that we have, what's the number right? And at the end of the day, I am gonna tell this, all your chairmans, Laredo PD is running on fumes. I'm gonna be very, very serious about that. And I'm telling you right now, and I know it's being recorded, I'm gonna repeat it again, we're running on fumes. It's very, very difficult to keep operating the way we are right now and continue being and assessing, preventing. And I wish I could show you what we showed them in executive session, and you would understand what I mean, because we are running on fumes. That's how it is.
And Mr. Chairman, from administrative, as your liaison, I will make sure to make, in your packets, the chiefs have laid out some of those questions that you have. In an hour and a half or 2 hours to get through all of what they've gone through in 5 meetings, we understand it, it's a lot, you know. But what the committee, myself as your liaison, is the package is ready to go forward. And I understand what Councilman Vela is saying. When all the others come together and yourselves are all kind of saying the same thing, you're just, you're gonna add it all together and then have a final package at one point or another. And yes, it's all gonna get to the place that it needs to get to in a uniform fashion front, and then the council is gonna determine this is what we're gonna take to the voters. And what we're showing you is that on the public safety side, we're ready to go to the voters we're comfortable with what we're presenting to you, and we're ready to present it to the city council. And the chief, the police chief has gone to the back with the council in executive session, so they're aware of what the committee's aware of when it comes to police. Of course, the fire chief is presented annually through his budget process and other process. We're ready to move it to them, basically, and then as it accumulates and the others get added on, we believe that public safety is at the top of any voter's mind. And I want the public to know, as a former fire chief and interim police chief, that public safety should be at the top of their minds before any rec center or any other thing like that.
As maker of the motion, I'll accept the amendment and call for the vote.
I'll second.
There's a call for the vote, and there's a second.
And if we can show hands.
That's
Show
it.
hands.
Roll call.
Mike.
Are we voting the amendment or the motion?
We're voting on the
Everybody
amendment.
accepted the amendment, right? Do we have to vote on the amendment? I
We
don't
have to
think
vote
do.
on the amendment.
We don't have to, well.
You don't have to.
He accepted
No, nobody's against
accepted the motion.
We just have to vote on the motion.
And excuse me, I'm just freezing up here. I'm pretty.
I've been saying that for the past 5 meetings.
Yes, so, all right. So there's a call for the vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed?
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Can I have one last comment on this, because I'm guessing we're moving on to the next one, we've been here a while. Is there a way, or what is the plan on how staff is going to present this? Is it gonna be just one public safety item that the people are gonna vote on? Or is it gonna be fire this much, police this much?
And see, this is a question that we've been discussing it, for 5 meetings now. It always comes up. Okay, how is the city going to present this to the public? Is it going to be fire, Proposition 1, police, Proposition 2?
I think that's how it should be. The
And
more you break it up, the better,
infrastructure.
without making it too busy.
Everybody stands on their own.
Oh, so at the end of the way, at the end of the day, Mr. Chairman,
We had said that this,
Yeah,
if
we-
it's one
we
referendum, we
recommend-
put it in
we-
pieces.
We
not together.
recommended in pieces, but public safety, there's four
Four
different-
categories.
There's 4 different categories, and we believe that it should be, because these 2 guys are together.
Agreed.
They're grabbed by the hand and they're walking into the fire or into the gunfire. It's not fair for one to get the other, and if he has more leniency, that he can
I
get
don't-
from, then that would be great, and vice versa.
I don't think, if one passes, the other one's gonna pass.
I don't think so.
All I'm saying is, do you wanna present 360 million to the public? Or 98 million and 260, it's just a smaller number. It's still public safety. But that's,
At the end of the day, it's 360
that's,
million.
I understand that, but that's,
We're smart
that's,
enough to understand
that's
that.
that's another, I didn't mean, I didn't think it was gonna be.
But something that I do recommend, if it is recommendable, is that we use
We're
a
not making a
lo-
decision on that tonight.
is that we use a local company for the marketing. Not this Utah companies that come in and they don't know the people of Laredo, that we get a local company that knows Laredoans and our Laredoans on how to message this to Laredoans.
We don't have to.
Is there a question, is there a?
He had something.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna recognize our consultant counsel.
Thank you, Chairperson, Council, committee members. Just at the request of Mr. Mata, he wanted to clarify for you guys that this really is an option of the city. It doesn't need to be decided now. Legally, you can do either one. So just wanted to make that clear for the record. It's really your all's decision how you want to proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
We can
All right.
always work through those details later, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else wanna throw more gas on the fire?
We have,
We've got,
when is the other,
You guys have been waiting for me outside.
all right, we're gonna move on now.
yeah, like, when are the other?
See, public safety.
We're gonna move on.
This day is gonna, depending on your vote, he's either gonna protect you.
All right, thank you very much again. We're gonna move on to the next item, discussion of, with possible action on the Enhancement Services Subcommittee's recommendation, if any, and I think I'm gonna ask, Chairman Heather to see if there's any development on your committee.
Actually, Vice Chairman, but I'm sitting in for Mr. Arce today. But our committee has met several times, and a motion was made by the Enhancement Services Subcommittee to dedicate the $138 million in bond funds earmarked for the subcommittee to enhancing the water system in Laredo, and calling upon other subcommittees to do the same. So we have heard the various presentations in light of the boil water notice, in light of the infrastructure, knowing that the enterprise fund has not been able to keep up with the hundreds of miles of 50-year-old pipe that is really needs to be fixed. We have made that motion from out of our subcommittee. Wow. It was approved.
Okay, so are you gonna be presenting that as a motion?
Yes.
So,
Question?
Mr. Is that the question is, Mr. Chairman, is that a function of the committee to shut itself down? Because basically you'd be really shutting your whole committee out and packing your books and saying, we're not interested in moving forward with any of the projects. In other words, I don't want to sell how could I say it best, as an administrator, your function was to come back like police and fire and make a presentation, but if the committee is saying, and you're all in agreement that you have nothing to bring to this committee in your committee, then legally, I guess there's really a non-issue. What I'm trying to think through is, can the committee just shut itself down because it was created by the council?
Well, who's your department head overseeing this committee?
Liaison.
Mr. Joe Valdez.
Should I'd like to make a point of order here. I think we have a motion on the floor, but we don't have a second, so we don't really have any opportunity to have a discussion on this topic. So having said that, there's a motion. You want to rephrase your motion? Rephrase, yeah. I might have a cold, man. Rephrase, or not rephrase. You want to
explain it, or
just state your motion. What is
yeah,
the
so
motion?
The motion was, and Chief, was not a view. The committee considered this. We don't consider it shutting down our committee. We have continued to meet and listen to additional enhancement service presentations from various departments. We consider enhancing the water system and enhancement service. The enhancement services, yeah, there were some projects there, but our view was that with the water system where it is, you can, we were pitched a water park. We were pitched rec centers, things like that. And our personal view was, if we're gonna go out to the citizens of Laredo days after boil water notice, months after boil water notice, where the city spent millions of dollars, as we're now looking to outside resources, and so many people lost money on this, that we felt that it was important that if we're gonna go to the citizens and ask them to increase their taxes, that this was, you know, like safety, water is one of the top priorities. And so our view was that there have been various proposals that have been put forward over the years to the city council that have not yet been adopted, primarily for financial reasons, that the monies that were there were that were sort of earmarked, you know, in the suggested numbers. We could look at some of those projects, you know, Purple Pipe and so on and so forth, and say, why isn't this an enhancement service as well? Because it is enhancing the lives of Lauradians. So we did not feel that that vote on our part shut down the committee, but that was our recommendation coming out of our discussions.
Will you be meeting again?
Yes, go ahead.
Will you be meeting again soon or are you actually gonna make you made a motion, right? So.
Yeah, we made the motion and adopted it. I mean, we're probably still meeting. I have not talked to Mr. Arce this week, so I don't know exactly, or Mr. Valdez. So I do not know when our next meeting is, but we've met 3 or 4 times.
So basically, it's just a status to the rest of the committee with no action.
Yes.
And I'll take back that status to the city manager.
We don't have that, we don't have any presentation on it. We haven't gone through and said, all right, these are the purple water pipes, the project, and this was the reclamation of water or recycling of water project. We don't have any sort of presentation in that regard, but that was our, considered judgment, was that water was one of the most priority items that we have in Laredo right now.
I understand. Thank you.
All right.
You don't need a motion for that, right?
Mr. Heather.
There's no second?
There is no second, but I mean,
If
the motion,
If I may,
yes.
just for information purposes, the committee did meet last week, and I believe their intention was to meet again. So, Mr. Valdez, the liaison, is out of town right now.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask if Mr. Valdez was here as part of the liaison to.
No, he's out of town. You might want to give an opportunity to meet with the committee and meet.
Yes, I agree. So,
Do you want a motion?
well, I don't know. I mean, the question is, he started out with making a motion, so I'm asking. If there's no second, there's nothing
I was
to
explaining
discuss.
the motion that we had made.
On your committee,
that
I
had adopted.
understand.
I was
Okay.
not moving
All
this
right. Okay.
forward for any action.
Very well, okay. all right.
Can I just say something, just so that, this can hopefully be taken back to the committee? That there is a huge misconception that we have all these hundreds of miles of water lines that need to be replaced. And there is. Replacing water lines is a constant projects that need to be made, that need to be done every single year. The problem is, it's not a monetary issue. It's that there has not been the proper oversight. And the past director, God bless him, he's a really good person. He was just out of his element, because that's what he did. He was just in over his head. Previous administration had abandoned the replacing of water lines for too many years, so now we're behind the 8 ball. We have to start with restructuring the leadership within that department before we just throw money at it. Secondly, to take general fund money, which is what we're talking about. When we're talking about COs, we're talking about loans sold against our property taxes, which are COs, that goes into the general fund. To take that and put it into an enterprise fund is not the way you run a municipality.
Right.
And if you were to do that, then you're sending red flags to people in New York that buy these bonds, saying, number one, we don't know how to manage our money, and number two, our enterprise fund can't take care of itself. And that would create chaos for the amount of interest rates that we have to pay for our bonds. So it's just, even if that were the issue, which it's not, there's an issue within our utilities department that is being addressed. And there are projects that we need to catch up on that I would strongly, and I don't think this committee, or maybe the city council, because there are some that are trying to sell that idea, but I think it's just politics, to be quite honest with you. Because they know you can't do that, or you should not do that. And the last time I heard of a city doing something like that, their bonds did get re-rated, and they've been selling junk bonds for the past 15 years, because they did something just like this. They took general fund money, put it in an enterprise fund. Once they found out, it was
And if I may, the utilities is not within the scope of this referendum.
Thank you, Mr. John. All right, moving on to item number 6, discussion with possible action on the Health and Wellness Subcommittee's recommendation, if any. Chairman Vasquez, do you have any information to share?
We just met for the first time, last week, so, we're hoping to come back to the committee with, a better understanding of what the committee or the subcommittee will be asking for or recommending. I will say that there are some real public health challenges, and I'm glad to see that health is being addressed through this process. So that's all I have to report at the moment, and we'll be meeting on a regular basis, just like fire and police have, really taking this one to heart, and hope we can come up with some really actionable items that we can address within the community to address public health in a generational way that addresses it for future generations to come.
Thank you, Chairman Vasquez. Moving on to the next item, number 7, discussion with possible action on Public Infrastructure Subcommittee's recommendations, if any. Chairman Bella, anything to report?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we're going to meet one more time. We have taken action on one item that, frankly, I think it's a Ramon, it was a $2.8 million deal that we took action on. That, frankly, should be taken out of the MPO, or should be presented to the MPO. It's about reinvesting fiber optics and redoing all the traffic lighting so that there's better communication along Mines Road, so that those lights are synchronized better and quicker, and we can take action. $2.8 million can very easily come out of the MPO. It's just about presenting the MPO. So I'm going to suggest that when we present to the city council, to tell them, and there are members of the MPO, to get that money out of one of those categories, probably category 7, because that's the easiest one to use, and take that money out of there. There's a huge ask for street paving for both commercial and industrial. If there's any action taken at all, frankly, I think it's going to be, not I think, it will be for industrial, redoing the industrial parks, cul-de-sacs, intersections, making them concrete, and then redoing the thoroughfares with asphalt. They're asking for, I think it's like $120 million or $110 million. I think I can probably get $50 million out of the committee, maybe, and just because we need to bring something and put something in front of them, and there is, if we're going to invest in anything with paving, it's going to be for our industrial parks, for obvious reasons, being the largest in that port in North America. We need to make sure that we take care of those. Our street paving, look, I'm not a fan of, and Chewy mentioned it earlier, Mr. Olivares mentioned it earlier, using COs to be able to buy stuff or finance things that aren't going to last the duration of the 20 years or the 30 years or whatever that CO is going to be. Although I know you have a plan for those cars, but to pay for them within a 5-year period and all that good stuff. But, you know, I've served on 2 different committees now in the past, I guess it's been about 6 months now. I was on the Charter Revision Committee. We took some really, really good possible amendments to City Council on how we could finance street paving other than selling COs, for basically borrowing money for 20 years to pay for something that's going to last 5 or 10 years. It's just bad business. It doesn't make sense. Now, public safety, to a certain extent, that's also how city government works, and which is why it's so expensive to run cities, because we can't manage our money properly, because that's just the way city governance as a whole work. So I understand the need in the public safety part, and that's not going to change. But the paving can change, and we put forward two different amendments to put in front of the city council on how a different way to be able to pay for street paving. They shut it down. You were there, Mr. Landine, and here I am again, serving in a completely different committee with completely different cast of people, of characters, and they're saying the same exact thing. They do not want to finance street paving like that, although recognizing that it's a need. City council has to accept that we cannot continue to run our business this way. We have to be able to finance and come up with money that comes in, hard, cold cash, and put it towards street paving. Because to continue to operate like this, it's not gonna happen. They're not accepting it. People are starting to understand government more and more now, and they understand that that's not the way you should be running your government. And that's the message that I'm going to take to city council. Hopefully they hear it this time. And honestly, my hope is maybe they end up putting that, I don't see why we couldn't put a charter amendment on this same ballot, introducing the amendments that we had put forward in front of city council, 5 months ago or 4 months ago, whatever it was. If they understand that that's what, again, it's a completely different group of people are asking for, so.
It's obviously, you're looking at how leveraged resources.
So yes, so the two amendments that we wanted to put forward is take 5% of all property tax money that comes in, which is, about $100 million that comes in property tax money, right? And that's all of it, that's with the debt service and all that stuff, about $100 million, so 5% is $5 million. And then take 5% of all money that's left over from the previous year's budget, which is usually, that's gonna vary obviously, but I think the last time it was like $40 million. So take 5% of that as well. So now we're talking about another 2 million, so $7 million. And it's going to grow as our budget grows, obviously. Right now, whenever we do sell bonds, it's usually about $5 million a year to sell bonds to give the public works, to be able to pave streets. So now we're talking about $2 million more that they will be getting, and we're not borrowing money, it's hard cold cash. So if we can do that, and yes, it does put a little bit of a strain, and because we have general fund is the black hole, but that's the idea, is to make sure a lot of that money gets dedicated to where it matters. And one of the reasons why I brought this up is when I was on council, I'd have different constituents, talking, they wanted their streets paved. And they'd always say, I pay taxes. Right. They don't understand that their taxes go to the public. Their taxes are gone. But this is a way to make sure that some of their taxes do go to.
So maybe when you go back to the committee, you might wanna, take a look at it. I don't know, when you talk about industrial parks and paving, we got a lot of 18-wheelers in this town that tear up the roads and everything, right? So possibly when you get to the yards up there and you're looking to figure out how to leverage resources, you could probably even look at an assessment on some of these yards. And that's how we used to do paving when we didn't have any money in the city.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, at one time we actually sold it against right. Utilities, because we said utilities is tearing up our streets, replacing water lines.
That's right.
So we sold it to the bond council, said, okay, we need to borrow some money from utilities, because utilities did have plenty of money back then.
Right there.
And we borrowed $10 million from utilities to put in the street paving.
Yeah, so maybe those big yards out there with all big wheelers, 18-wheelers, maybe they can pitch in a little assessment based on their square footage on the frontage of your road.
Thank you, Chairman Bell. Back in the day, right?
Yeah,
when we first started paving, that's exactly what it was.
That's the way we started paving streets in Laredo. Assessments, and the residents would pay $10 on their property tax every year for like 15 years. But that's how we started. That's how we were able to sell bonds after that. So it's not empty,
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything else, any other information from your subcommittee?
No, sir.
All right. Having said that, we've got one subcommittee that's already finished. We're done. We've got 3 other subcommittees that are continuing to meet. I know that the Health and Wellness Committee just met last week. I think we're meeting on Thursday. We have a presentation coming in, so I would recommend that the rest of the subcommittees meet. Our timeline calls for, meeting this month and I think part of December. And the sooner we have the presentations in all the subcommittees and get all that information presented to us, the better prepared we'll be. And time is of the essence, so that we can go ahead and move forward and present to City Council, and then start working on the campaign. Everybody has a copy of the timeline in there. So having said that, before we move to adjourn, Section 7 there, or Item 7, just
you know, it's there for reference only. We're not needing to go into executive session, but do we want to talk about, you know, when we're going to meet again?
I'm hoping the first Tuesday of the month, December.
The first Tuesday of December? Okay. Do y'all want to look at your calendars right now and? Huh?
It'll be on the second.
It would be the
It
third,
would
right?
be either
Tuesday,
on
the second
the
Tuesday?
first Tuesday, or it could be on the second Tuesday, no further than that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely on a Tuesday.
The second Tuesday works for me.
Second Tuesday? That's the 10th.
Right.
All right. Chairman Olivares, you okay with that date?
We're okay, and,
right.
if there is
December 9th?
no executive session, so
December-
make a motion to adjourn.
Just quick correction, I believe it's December, yeah, no, it's December 10th, yes.
December 10th, yeah,
Not
December 10th,
Yes,
Tuesday.
yes.
There's no conflict with this chamber either, right?
No.
Okay, all right. There is a call, there is a motion to adjourn, and there is a second. Who is the second on that?
Chewy.
Motion, Chew. Chairman Olivares, and second was, Chairman Heather. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed?
No.
Thank you.
Hey, but you didn't think, I have to be here today.